thank all of you for inviting me here today to tell you some about the Friendship Baptist Church and also about the family. But let me first thank you for all you people do for our area all the time. I do love my community, and I enjoy it. And I appreciate what you people do to make it better and to maintain it. So thank you again for inviting me to come here today. It looks like, almost looks like I'm in the Friendship Church. When I look here, this is pictures from the church that I see all the time. So I almost feel like I'm at home here when I look at these pictures. First of all, I'll tell you a little about the family, then we will talk about the church. But some of our family members always had an interest in county politics. When I was a small boy, I would hear adults talk about county leaders, and that really impressed me. I thought about what an honor it would be to be a leader in Rhea County government. By the early 70s, I had lost all interest. I didn't want to run for anything myself, or didn't want any of the family to run for anything. But by 1975, my brother, Carlos Jr., he had decided that he wanted to be sheriff. He knew that I didn't want him to run, so he didn't mention it to me for some time, and I hoped he would change his mind. During this time in 1975, if I remember the dates right, a sheriff's deputy was shot and killed answering a disturbance call. Johnny Swofford was killed, and his funeral was at the Friendship Baptist Church. So I was hoping that would help influence my brother not to run, but he was already well into his campaign, and nothing was going to change his mind. So at that time, I gave him my full support. Back during those years, the sheriff races were always closed. I remember one time back there that when the sheriff's candidate won the office by 40 votes, 2 years later, the defeated candidate came back and he won it by 10 votes. But anyway, this one would be different, this race was, and I think it's been different ever since. We organized well and won by a large margin. But once he was in office, he had more of a challenge than any other sheriff had ever had in Rhea County. The state and federal governments had implemented new laws and standards for the office of sheriff. They required the departments to be certified under these new requirements, and no sheriff up until that point had ever attempted to comply with these requirements. But from day one, Carlos Jr. was determined to certify this department. He worked long and hard, and the state worked well with him, even though he perhaps didn't have everything that they would have required, but they saw his efforts and his determination to put it under these new requirements. But the state worked well with him, and he put it under the requirements, and he kept it there. as long as he was in office. He enjoyed his campaign so much. He enjoyed his work in law enforcement, but his health deteriorated. What most people don't know is he had health problems before he ran for office. But he enjoyed his campaign and enjoyed his work in law enforcement so much that his health improved. So I had hoped, well, all of his health problems are behind him. But they were not. They gradually come back and his health gradually deteriorated. But I was there with him to cope with the challenges. The enormous efforts to meet these challenges were so great that I enrolled in Cleveland State Community College and took all the night classes I could get as quick as I could get them, and received an associate degree in criminal law. I enjoyed the study of law. I still enjoy studying law. When I read the papers, I read court rulings to see what is up-to-date law. But I enjoyed working the challenges, and later I became a school board member. I served there for 19 years. And the system had numerous problems too. Some of the problems were, of course, most of you know, overcrowding at Ray Central and at the high school. Overcrowding, and most everyone didn't really know what to do at that time. It was a major problem. But a few of us, I was very much involved myself, a few of us came up with a plan to build a new high school and renovate the old one to use for a middle school. This proved to be a good plan, and this plan solved our overcrowding problems and will be adequate for years to come. The people of Rhea County have truly been good to our family. I will always be appreciative for what they've done for us. They let me fulfill my dream as a small boy. As I would hear people talk about county officials, I thought what an honor it would be. So as a dream as a small boy, of course I had a desire to be a part of it. So the good people of the county, they let me enjoy this, and I will always be appreciative of it. Now I'll talk about the Friendship Baptist Church for a few minutes. The Friendship Baptist Church was one of the earlier ones. Friendship Baptist Church was established on a large farm on the bank of the Henderson Creek. The Henderson Creek is up on the mountain, of course, and this Henderson Creek also becomes Richland Creek as other streams join with it downstream. Two county roads also runs through this large farm that the church is on. Two county roads. One is the Summer City Road, and this road is in Bledsoe County. It comes up from Highway 30 there, and it's in Bledsoe County. Then the Liberty Hill Road, it's on the east side, and it is located in Rhea County. And also the Rhea and Bledsoe County lines runs through this farm. At the intersection of where these two roads come together, there was a post office. This post office was named Hayworth. On the same farm of the church, Hayworth Post Office, several of the church members from the Friendship Baptist Church listed their addresses as Hayworth. And this large farm it's all on, this was owned by a man named Jack Henderson. The church was established in 1898, and it was the only church in the area. The Reverend Bird Henderson, which was my great-grandfather, was the first pastor. And it is believed that he organized this church and perhaps conducted services there on the ground before they ever had a building. But this first church building was constructed out of logs. I didn't get to see this building. And also the church pews were made of logs. They would split these logs in the center and make pews out of them. This building was used until 1906, when a new building was constructed across the field on the same farm. And that building is this one here. For that day, this structure was a good building, and it was covered with handmade boards, which was a common thing in that day. I've seen my father make handmade boards to cover his barn. This was a structure that was established in 1906. And for that day, it was a good structure. When the building was finished, a man named Alvin Henderson, one of the church members, sat on the rooftop and sang the song, "The Lifeboat." He was so thrilled with it. They were so thrilled, of course, to have this, going from the log building and going to this building. The pastor at that time was Reverend J.A. Daniel. He was pastor there at the same time in 1906. The church had 82 members at that time. And let me say this too about the pastors. We have pictures of a lot of the pastors here. You can look at after we're finished. But anyway, this was 1906. This building was used, well, actually it went through a major renovation in 1948 or 49. I remember this renovation very well myself. It went through a major renovation, I should say, and they put new siding on. They made it look like that, all the little front building there. But they put the new siding on and put the metal roof on. They put a new floor in it. And, well, it still had the Reverend Huey Holland was pastor at this time. The Reverend Holland loved to drive his 1936 Plymouth and pick up members along the way that needed to ride to church. This building was used for 60 years. It was used until 1966, when the present building was constructed. That's the building over there, the way it looks now. And also the fellowship halls by the church. It was added in 1985. But the church, it still looks like that. That's the way it is now. The church had good leaders all through the years. The gifted leaders always took care of the needs of the church. And the church members also did their own building. They didn't bring in any contractors. They did the building. I remember very well, I helped a little. I was not a carpenter, but when they started building that one over there in July of 1966, I made blisters on my hands. They're using hand tools, they're digging down for the foundation. But anyway, we have the building and still proud of it. But after other churches were built in the area, the friendships leaders would go out and help these young churches. They helped with whatever needs they had, including revivals, choir singings. Their ministers would also go out and conduct funerals. Members of the choir would go out and sing for funerals. And some of that continued until recent years. The church was evangelistic in reaching a non-Christian. They saw the need to evangelize everyone as much as possible in the area. They also helped organize other churches. The church choir had skilled music readers. They sang the four-part harmony. And they enjoyed singing the hard songs like the professional quartets would sing back in that day. This choir was known over a large area. They had good voices for singing. And the church choir had leaders that went out and taught music in other churches. The church enjoyed singing, the church choir enjoyed singing so much that they started a monthly singing in 1957, and it continued once a month for 40 years. Singers and choir directors from a few counties around would come in to enjoy and participate in this singing once a month. Old Satan and his evil forces did not like the success the church was having. A few made an effort to change the church to another denomination. In May the 20th of 1938, a business meeting was called, and the Reverend Ralph Tolliver moderated this meeting. Anybody know Ralph Tolliver's family? The Reverend Ralph Tolliver, May the 20th, 1938, he moderated that business meeting, and this few that attempted problems were excluded from the church, and they went their way, never attempted to change the church anymore. The Reverend J.A. Daniel and the Reverend Bird Henderson, two of the ministers back there, they worked harmoniously with the church. They dearly loved one another, and they agreed that whichever one died first, the other one would conduct her funeral. So the Reverend J.A. Daniel died first, and the Reverend Bird Henderson conducted his funeral. The Reverend Henderson passed away the following year in 1925. And the son of the Reverend J.A. Daniel, the Reverend Matt Daniel, took his team of horses and wagon and transported the Reverend Bird Henderson's casket to the Burdette Cemetery for burial. The church still enjoys harmony. and still have good services. But the church, like most others, does not have the success it one time had. A lot of course, all of the older ones are off of the scene, and the younger ones have moved away, and younger and middle-aged to other areas. So it doesn't have the success it did, but the COVID-19 is the worst enemy. It has really taken its toll at this time on the church. So I'm hoping that, and I'm sure you all do, that that'll clear up someday where we can get back to having services one time had. I want to say a few things about this post office that I told you about, the Hayworth Post Office. I brought a copy out of the old church book of a few names, listed their names of the Hayworth Post Office. And I want to tell you a little about a man named Earl Kelly. He was a member of the prominent Dayton Kelly family. He had brothers, one named Carl Shipwreck Kelly, and he was a former sheriff. And Elmer Kelly, I think if I remember right, he was a former mayor of Dayton. But Earl told me the story about how he used his buggy and had a mule to pull it, and he carried mail. I think it's maybe on a substitute basis. He carried some mail and worked with this Hayworth Post Office. But he told me about one day that he went out to the mountain. He made his run all day and everything went well. He came back in from the mountain. When he came to the railroad here on 2nd Avenue, a train came through. It scared his mule, and it ran away and tore the front wheels out of his buggy. He didn't tell me what happened to his mail. Anyway, let me thank you all again for letting me come and share this. And again, I thank all of you for what you do for our community. I appreciate that. And we have pictures here. We have some pictures here. Also a picture of my brother there and a book there. But you're welcome to look at these pictures. One of the pastors was also an herb doctor. His name is Dr. C.D. Patchett. But anyway, the pictures are here. You can look at them. And thank you again for everything.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Carol? I've got one question. The Burdette Cemetery, was that, well, let me ask it this way. Was there a cemetery specifically associated with the membership of the Friendship Church?
Well, let me see. Bert Henderson, this first pastor, Bert Henderson, his wife was a Burdette. That was a connection. All the Burdettes up around Evansville. Tommy Burdette used to be around. People knew him. But she was a Burdette. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Bert Henderson, first pastor, and perhaps the one that organized it, got it all started. But that was a connection to the church. To the church.
Thanks, Carl. We certainly appreciate you coming down, sharing sharing the family history and the history of the church. And I know, having been a public servant for about 40 years myself, I know everyone is appreciative of the service the family has obviously provided to the community. So again, thanks for bringing the items down. We very much appreciate it. Is there any new business? Hearing none. The next meeting is, I think, January the 16th. I think that's the third.
I'm not sure the day.
Third Sunday?
Third Sunday in January.
Yeah. And Vera Abel, who is here, will be presenting information on the Abel family. Correct?
That's right.
Okay.
How you doing?
And I guess I would be remiss before we end this meeting to not wish everyone a happy holiday season on behalf of the board of the society, and a healthy one. We need to get back to that. So I hope you have a great holiday. And Tom, I'm going to show you another little shortcut.
Okay.
Is there any objection to unanimous approval of a motion to end this meeting? Hearing none?
Hey, maybe
Yes, sir.
sure everybody signs.
Yes, please, if you haven't signed, please sign in on the sign-up sheet. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks for attending.